que lo han hecho, ¿no? Y decir que se puede, ¿no? Y eso es parte de lo que vamos a aprender. Y para nuestros amigos empresarios que están conectados también, que este es el inicio de un trabajo que desde ClujIT que estamos ya realizando con Rumania, precisamente en la línea de generar más oportunidades de negocio para el país. Sin más preámbulo, okay, let's switch to English. So, thank you, Daniel, Cyprian, Carlos. Just a short introduction. Carlos and Daniel and Cyprian are from the area of Cluj. What's the right pronunciation? Cluj?
Cluj.
Cluj. Oh, I'm so sorry. You are going to introduce yourselves, and thank you very much for this opportunity, and all the presentation is for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marco, for the introduction. We are very glad to meet you all. And we look forward that through this meeting and discussion, we will establish and foster the development of a relation between the Chilean and the Romanian IT industry, Chile Tech and ClujIT cluster, and also the members of our respective organizations. With this, I will start sharing my screen, and I will start the presentation that I have prepared.
Daniel, I think it would be good if we introduce ourselves first.
Absolutely, Carlos. Mm-hmm. So we are the Romanian team. Let's say myself, I'm Daniel Humorodean. I'm vice president of ClujIT cluster. I'm also an IT entrepreneur, CEO of Arxia, a Romanian IT company. We have together with us Cyprian Sorlea, which is a board member of ClujIT cluster, CTO of NordLogic. He's also a guru in software architectures and a very strong supporter of technical communities and of startup ecosystems. And we have Carlos, who's our bridge in between the countries and the organization, and has organized this encounter. And Carlos, if you want to speak some more about yourself, please.
Yes, sure. Even though I'm not the one presenting this presentation right now, I would like to share a few words as a preamble because I'm of course 100% Chilean, and I've been living here in Cluj for the last 4 months. I lived here in Romania for about a year, about 12 years ago. And I've been looking very closely at this place for the last 10 years. And I've been very interested in the process of transformation that the Romanian economy has had around the IT industry and especially IT outsourcing. And I came to this land because I am a firm believer that the opportunities that are here and the way that this market develops, it can be an incredible partner for the Chilean companies, Chilean entrepreneurs, in open doors in Europe for Chilean companies. And I believe that I have had that belief for a long time, but that has been confirmed during the last few months, because the reception that I encountered here when I first came here, with this illusion of building a bridge between the two countries, that I knew that it was difficult, but even though I firmly believed in it, the reception that I had here was beyond my wildest expectations. Everybody, from the first week I got here, I found people willing to look into our market, to look into opportunities. I found here that this is people with a very global mentality. So borders and distances don't mean much when, especially in the IT industry here. So I firmly believe that, and this is also a country with that the industry has. It's not controlled only by huge companies, but also the opportunities are between pymes, between SMEs companies here, which makes it a very friendly environment I have encountered, and a very enthusiastic environment. So I'm very excited for this opportunity, and I know that we can build very good things here. So that's it. The virtual floor is yours, Daniel.
Daniel, just a short comment, and thanks for Carlos to be, as you said, the bridge between us. And he's a very obstinate guy, and this kind of project is important, not just organizations, also people. So key people is so important. So thank you very much, Carlos, for your obstination and to be very tough and go pushing forward for this relationship. So thank you very much from our side. Okay, just that. Thank you very much. Okay, Daniel, let's go.
All right. And thank you, Carlos, for actually making a very nice promotion of the Romanian IT ecosystem on this preamble. So we are coming from Romania. Our country is situated in the central east part of Europe. And historically, it is caught between great empires. You know, the Turks in the south, the Russians in the north, the Austrian in the west. That meaning that during the time we were actually a country for only 100 years. So we were fought over by all these empires, and yet over almost 2,000 years of history, we kept our language, we kept our identity. You know, Romanians come, as the name says, from the Romans, who had one of their northernmost province here. And our city, which is also called Napoca, was the capital of the province at that time. And this, I believe, that shows also the resilience of our people, the ability to cooperate, the ability to thrive against all odds, and to work together in order to accomplish results. We are coming from the city of Cluj, or Cluj-Napoca. It is the second largest city of Romania, with a population of about 350,000 inhabitants. It is also a very big university center. It has over 100,000 students. And it is also a big IT hub with the largest concentration of IT specialists or programmers in all the region, not just in Romania, but in all the geographic region, as we have in our city close to 20,000 programmers. So the density of IT guys, people in this zone is very high. We are also the, let's say, capital of the historical province of Transylvania, which is also known maybe by some of us for the fact that it was from where Dracula came. So we had historically some vampires around. I don't think anymore that we have them, but that's the history. I will give you a bit of introduction about the current state of the industry, of the IT industry, and further on I will describe briefly how we get where we are. When we are saying Romanian IT industry, actually we are saying software industry. Because you will see a bit later, then in the past we had hardware as well, but now hardware does not count for much. So we stick just to the software industry, or let's say software and IT services, which unites hosting and consultancy activities. And in the figures that you will see further, we also do not include the communication part, which normally is put in the ICT acronym, but communication is a different. So you will concentrate just on software. We have a consistent participation in the generation of the revenue of the country, which is growing at about 20% rate per year. On the figures of last year, we had 6.6 billion euros generated, and as you see from the years in the past and the projections in the future, we see this 20-year by year growth. We expect to see the growth this year as well, even if there is a worldwide pandemic, because for now it seems that we are not as industry, as Romanian industry, too much affected by it. The Romanian software industry is mostly concentrating on export. So about 70% of everything that we produce goes towards other countries, especially, and the major market is the Western countries of the European Union. Also, still the North America has a share. By the figures of last year, we have 4.6 billion euros in export of the software industry, and this accounts for a lot of the total export of the country. So it's close to 20% of everything that Romania exports, 20%, and we expect this to also grow. The Romanian market itself internally is growing still. It is maturing, but it is far from having the capacity of absorbing what we can produce. We have over 11,000 companies who are specialized in IT in Romania. And I'm giving these figures, keeping in mind that our population, our total population, is similar with that of Chile. So it's still around 19 million. And the number of IT companies is growing in the same rate of about 15 to 20% per year. Most of them are SMEs, small companies, but we also have autonomous big ones. And we also have multinationals who in the former 15 years have established here delivery centers and also research centers. The total number of employees as of last year is about 125,000 people in the industry. It's growing at about a rate of 10,000 per year, and it's still too little compared to the needs of the industry, to the growth needs of the industry yet. However, the formal education sector and also the informal education sector are not able to cope for more. So we're still lacking quite a number of programmers in most of our companies and most of the companies that I know about. How did we get here? Well, actually, we have a tradition that spans right after the Second World War, a moment in which we drew in a way the short stick and came under the Iron Curtain in the communist space, under the influence of the USSR and the communist area. And at that moment, we realized as a country, at the governments at that time, that we have to stand apart, that we have to find a way in which we can generate a sustainable value for ourselves. And that is why it was already in the 50s that engineering, and especially computer engineering, became a national strategic priority. That's why we were among the first 10 countries to ever build a computer. In 1957, we built our first, and we were among the communist countries, the second after the USSR. We were actually the 8th in the entire world to ever build a computer. And from then on, the industry of computer building has gained momentum. By 1969, we've done our first microprocessor-based computer. factories of computer has grown, but most important also generations of engineers and computer engineers. And there were some, let's say, golden decades in which many families were looking to send their children to become engineers in various domains, but a lot in the automation and a lot in the computers. And since then, we still retain a very large number of women engineers. And in our industry, if you're coming to visit us and you're coming to visit our companies, maybe you or many of our visitors are amazed of the percent of women, girls in our teams. It's close to 50% in some cases. And that is because of this tradition of engineering that still goes on after, let's say, almost 70 years. At that moment, the country has established research centers in computer and computing and service institutions, which were specifically designed to help and to assist the informatization of various processes in mining, in energy, in producing, in automation of the industrial processes, in finances, and so on. We built a lot of computers and exported computers up until the moment when we became free in 1989, when the Romanian Revolution happened and we threw out the communist dictatorship. Then we received our, let's say, liberty, freedom, and entered into a decade of chaos. A total chaos in which actually we were not governed. It was a period of chaos, of tremendous inflation, of low social security, and everybody was spending for himself. It was a decade in which all the industry in Romania was destroyed. All the factories was destroyed totally. So in one decade, we had to go from a hardware-focused producing country to a total service-based country, because at the end of the decade, we had close to non-existent hardware industry. It was a moment in which we've lost a lot of talent, a lot of people flew away, good people, engineers. Also a moment for those who are the most courageous, of whom we still have some companies existing to this day. Of one, I would mention a very nice success story of the Romanian IT, the Bitdefender company, which right now is one of the leaders, of the world leaders in selling and producing antivirus software. And it was built exactly in the first year of our freedom, 1999. In the early 2000s, the economic environment established a bit, and it became what I see after so many time as a time for opportunists, and I was one of them. In 2002, I finished the university, and immediately after, I've created my own software company, knowing nothing about business, nothing about managing finances or managing contracts or anything like this. But it was a time in which actually it was you could have started a company with no money. The software engineering were earning peanuts, and if you were willing to strive and to fight for your right under the sun, you could grow fast. And it was a sort of wild west of the moment in which a lot of companies were creating. There were not so many job opportunities, but still it was the beginning of a wave of foreign companies looking for competencies here. And it was the beginning of the growing of the outsourcing here or the expansion of the outsourcing in Romania. It was also a moment in which the Romanian state, or the Romanian government at that time, realized that IT could be a lucky card for Romania. And it was one of the earliest measures to sustain the industry, and I would say among the very few that happened along the time, to actually introduce tax exemption for the entire IT industry. That meaning that the tax on the netto of the salary, which is directly added as tax toward the state, right now it's 10%, and our industry is not paying it. That's a 10% competitive advantage that we have since almost 20 years ago, and it did help a lot. The next couple of years saw very high maturity of the market. Many companies growing, the autochthonous ones growing to tens and then to hundreds of programmers, and also the incoming of a lot of foreign companies who came here, some of them big multinationals, who from one month to another were hiring 100, 200, 300 programmers, actually hitting our local entrepreneurship directly, but also challenging us to find ways to survive, to find ways to thrive, and to still look for opportunities. And then the financial crisis came to all the world, to us as well. We were not too much hit. However, we realized at that moment and in those years that we have to build a much more sustainable model of business. That outsourcing itself, the dependency on the fluctuations of foreign markets where we have no saying and we have no control and no ability to actually choose what whom you work for, is not going to work on the long run, especially since the cost of our workforce was growing more and more. We realized that we have to go more towards the cooperation in between our industry, to find more resilience in building IP. IP meaning that actually we've encouraged the development of proprietary products, which in principle can ensure passive revenue for those who are able to commercialize and to maintain them. We encourage the specialization and the development of, say, niche expert services. And we understood that from that moment, we as an industry can be and should be also a major actor in the ecosystem. And from then on, we were consciously a major actor in the ecosystem of Romania. And we deeply believe in our organization and us personally in the logic and the value of ecosystems. And in this respect, we have with us someone who's very deep into the building of ecosystems and of fostering the very parts of such complex constructions. And I will invite Ciprian to take over and to guide us through the process and the components of ecosystems. Chip, I stop the share now. You're muted, Ciprian. You're muted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I was thinking that maybe you can keep on sharing because only a couple of slides are for me, and I will take over your screen. What do you think about that? Can you still share, or let me?
You can share.
Okay. Now I wanted to use the nice feature from Zoom, which is allowing me to request control. Okay, so thanks Daniel for trusting me to give me control over your desktop. And I'm really excited to be seeing so many people attending. I've heard at the beginning of the conversation, Marco mentioned some really important keywords for me. Barbecue and wine. I think we can really be friends if those are on your favorite list, other than products and technology and other beautiful things that we are discussing about today. So without further ado, Daniel mentioned ecosystems, and I've been part of the Cluj ecosystems over the past 20 plus years. I moved here right after high school when I started to attend college here. And when I came to this town, basically there was no ecosystem. I got the job pretty soon after I started college, but the number of companies that you could get the job was extremely small. And now, like Daniel said, and showed some numbers nationwide and also here in Cluj, we have hundreds and thousands of companies, over 100,000 professionals working in this field. And the ecosystem is starting to get together nicely. Now, let's look at what makes a strong technology ecosystem. And before I get into those ingredients, please have in mind that these are ingredients. These are not recipes, right? So we are not saying how you can get a similarly strong ecosystem. We can say what you need, and then you have to figure out yourself with us and your partners and everybody as that is part of that ecosystem to understand what are the missing or the secret ingredients that your country, your culture, your experts, your people are able to use to take things into the direction that you dream about. The first ingredient is, of course, education. And here in Cluj and also throughout the country, universities are making a significant difference wherever we have technology universities in cities. Technology ecosystems are also starting to be created, because ultimately you need those universities to create the pool of talent that can potentially build the ecosystem. So usually you will see that any university cities are starting to become hubs for technology and for software development, product development, and innovation. Without that, it's really hard. It's really hard to consider anything like this. Now, with COVID and the current situation, we might believe that things might change, but real innovation is always going to happen when we have people together. And a lot of innovation is starting in the labs at the universities. And it's important to have universities represented properly into the tech ecosystem. The next thing we need, of course, and this is not a surprise for anyone, we need companies. If the universities are producing talent, we need companies that are going to be able to sustain the talent, to pay the talent, to nurture and develop going forward, while of course they also make profit. So nothing new so far here. We need communities, right? Where universities and companies are failing is giving the kind of diversity to the talent, to the people that are starting their path into a technology career, to explore all the things that are to be explored. When you start the job, usually you're focused on a set of tasks, and while you have some freedom in your job, you always need to learn more. You always need to connect to more people and to understand a bit more about your ecosystem. And technical communities are really important. I was surprised many years ago when I decided to become part of the community and part of the technical ecosystem beyond just as somebody who works in the field. I discovered that community is not only helpful to generate learning and to generate skills, or to help us to increase our skills, but it's also ensuring that our position in the world is getting more and more consolidated. Our quality level and our proficiency level is getting better with everything that is happening in the community. At the company level, we might be able to help a customer too. We might be able to make a small difference. But when we engage ourselves into decent sized communities and we help creating those communities, we can definitely make a change beyond our immediate reach. Of course, we need events, and sometimes communities and events can be overlapped, right? You can also call events all the meetups, all the free conferences that are available. But it's also important to understand that when you have events that are bringing people from outside the country or from other regions, you expose the local communities and the local professionals to a different mindset, to a different views, and diversity in these views and in this vision is extremely important for anyone who wants to become a professional in the field. When you're focusing only on the experiences and the know-how that is available in your local, let's say, context, in your local town or university, it's really hard to understand completely what's out there. Of course, internet provides us a lot of information, but in my experience, being involved in many events and conferences as a speaker or as a attendee, I was surprised in how much my mindset was affected when I was able to interact with people coming from different areas and from different backgrounds than I was. And I believe events are helping tremendously in this perspective. And Cluj has, when I was mentioning 20 plus years ago when I came to Cluj, there were literally no events in the IT field. Nowadays we have, I think, over 20 different conferences that are focused only on kind of knowledge sharing. And we have, of course, on different areas, more some of them are more technical on architectural level, some are, let's say, more generalistic, covering all sorts of technologies. Other are really specialized on specific technologies such as front end or iOS or mobile or things like that. But already we have reached a critical mass, and there is enough diversity so that everybody in any company can choose a number, at least a couple of events that they can attend freely, or supported by the companies, or even buy their own tickets if they want to invest in themselves, because it's really valuable content and really valuable information. The next thing that is extremely important to be part of a strong technology ecosystem is startups. And I want to make sure that we are discussing about startups are not just companies. We mentioned companies before, and companies are important because ultimately they help pay the bills, and they help us professionals to get jobs and evolve professionally. But startups provide something else. Startups add the product mindset to the companies. A startup is beyond agility and the whole mantra with move fast and break things. Startups are allowing us to have a different view over products. And I think this is something that was both a curse and a blessing for us here in Cluj. Over the past 20 plus years, we have been doing development for others, right? And as part of that, we got a lot of experience, but we also were modeled by their perspective. When you do a work, especially a repeated task, in a way that is, let's say, advised as best practice by a specific company, whether big or large, I mean, large or small, it doesn't matter, but you tend to kind of form some habits. And this was good because it allows us to increase the throughput of our deliverables and the quality level, but it also impacts our mindset and our ability to go beyond what we know and to explore and to be really adventurous in our technology. And having startups that are willing to take more chances, willing to risk more, is extremely important to be part of the ecosystem, because they take a lot of the knowledge and know-how that is already part in that ecosystem, as part of those communities, are putting it to a different kind of processing, different kind of mindset, and apply different concepts, and then all that outcome, mostly positive outcome, but also negative experiences, which are eventually just learning experiences, are fed back into the ecosystem. So it's helping the ecosystem to grow differently. And it's more like a mutation, if you want. You have a stable system, and the more startups are coming, the more mutations and the more diversity you can expect to have in that ecosystem. And of course, startups will not be possible without investors. Now, I'm part of various organizations and various events, let's say, where startups are striving and they actually have success. And some of them don't really have investors, but most of them are really early stage companies and I mean startups that want to make big change. Most of them are not going to be able to do that by themselves. So you need to have investors. And not sure if Daniel, if you mentioned, but we as a technology IT ecosystem, we had very little support from government or from other organizations. When Daniel mentioned earlier about companies coming to Romania to invest, they were not coming to invest their money and let us do what we want. They came to invest their money and tell us what to do or what they want. And it's a different approach. Now, of course, in the startup world, those of you that are familiar, you know that sometimes people are investing, or you know, when you get some capital, some investment, the investors will also tell you a bit about what they want, how they want things done. But that's a different story, right? That's advising. So we need as part of a strong ecosystem, we need companies and I don't know, investment funds and people that are willing to invest into ideas and that are willing to put even maybe some time and their experience in support for the young startups to grow and to become you know, big names. And we have a couple of really nice stories here. I'm sure you heard about UiPath, and there are many other success stories, companies that have exit with Facebook. We had a company that has, through a series of acquisitions, is now part of Google. So many success stories that have started with crazy ideas coming from community, coming from the university, with knowledge acquired into companies, but eventually they were taken to the next level and reach the right maturity level with the help of investors. And of course, what we need to have in mind is that everything happens if there are people with vision, if there are organizations that bring people together. I started 5 years ago, I started to be more involved into the ecosystem, into the community, and not because of the greatness of my heart, even though I believe I'm a decent or a good person, but I was inspired by someone to do that. And I made a promise that I will join the community and I will say yes to any invite that the community addresses, any request. If I can help a company, a startup, or a professional, or an event as a speaker or moderator, or what else, I'm going to attend and I'm going to do my help or my part for the community. And this is where the Catalyst organization come in place. They are organizations that have a vision. Maybe they have an agenda. They are focused on a specific niche, but they catalyze all the other players into the ecosystem. And with this, I'm going to give the command back to Daniel, because I think the Catalyst is the most important part for an ecosystem that has reached a certain maturity level and it's ready to make the move on to the next level.
Thank you very much, Ciprian. And indeed, this makes a transition that also historically has happened in the IT industry of Romania. Basically, the IT industry of Romania is a bottom-up construct. Except for that tax exception, the government has not helped us or has not made up policies to give us access to opportunity or to enable us to grow or to be competitive in relation with the other, let's say, foreign companies who came there and here and took our people and so on. However, we did find our ability to get together or to cluster together. It was in about 2011, 2012, as I mentioned, that we were looking for more sustainable method or models, when we came across the cluster model. Actually, the cluster is not a normal association, is not just an association of IT companies. It is built on the concept which was developed by the professor from Harvard, Michael Porter, related to the logic of how ecosystem work and evolve. And the concept is the triple or now quadruple helix model of innovation. That means that you have to put together companies, you have to put together universities, you have to put together the administration, the public sector, in order for them to work together and to build things together. And after a while, the fourth part of the helix came, which was the catalyst organizations. Basically, in principle, the NGOs, or the ones who did not fit the other three categories, which work together so that the things can be smooth. And I think that not only we as an organization are an example of a success of this approach, but also our city, which year after year right now became inclusive. Meaning that right now, we can, as industry or as citizen, to open up initiatives at any level towards any organization or towards the city hall, and we are heard, and there are mechanisms of communication in between us, and this works smoothly. Throughout the time, in the last decade, the IT industry of Romania went from an opportunistic approach, a Wild West, in which everybody could fend for themselves and fight to survive, to a strategic approach, in which we realized that in order for us to stay competitive and to be even more competitive in the wild world, fighting with the mammoths and the big companies and the big states, which put a lot of money in their IT, we need to stick together. And we need to have a long-term strategy to foster us. And that is why we've developed the ClujIT concept and the ClujIT cluster. It started in 2012. Right now, it has more than 60 companies. The logic of a cluster in principle is one of regional reach. That is why we call it ClujIT cluster. It started in Cluj. It fosters the development of the region of Cluj at large, where the northwestern part of Romania. However, we have now members from all over the country, and we actually accept members from all over the world. Because right now we are not just geographically bound, we are bound by the concept that we've developed. We have 9 public universities, among the best and the biggest in the country, not only in Cluj, also from other cities. And we have 11 support organizations, as Ciprian was saying, catalysts, among which we count city halls or county government and research institutions and so on. And we comprise throughout our entire or all organizations more than 10,000 IT specialists. What we do as a cluster, we are actually concentrating on creating opportunities, accessibility to opportunity for the players in the ecosystem, not only for our members. We are not oriented towards just selling or promoting the services of our mentors. We are building ecosystems, meaning our region, meaning our city, meaning our country, and even beyond of that. So we are going more strategic to a level in which neither of our company, no matter how big they are, cannot go by themselves, because they don't have enough or all the skills in order to sustain this type of approach. That means helping the state in working in public policies, standardizations, strategies for digitalizations, and big international projects which we do in partnership with other organizations. A bit about our roadmap so far. In 2014-15, we already have managed to get the funding and implement the first major project of ours, which brought together 16 of our members, companies, on a project of million euros. In 2015, we went beyond our borders, and we're one of the founders and initially the chairing of the regional cluster network. At that time, the Balkan Black Sea cluster network, IT cluster network, and nowadays also including some Baltic states IT associations and clusters. And we did it because we believe that throughout the entire Balkan area or the Southeast Europe area, we share the same challenges and probably in each of our countries, the same opportunities in regard to the need and the possibilities and the benefit that the digitalization is bringing, on one hand to the government and also to the private industry. So we say, we have to stick together with peer organizations. That means that we have more than 16 IT clusters right now. And from 2016, we've started promoting direct services of assistance towards various levels of the government and also towards the industrial ecosystem, that is producers, in developing strategies and plans and audits for digitalization, for smart city strategies for municipalities and so on. We are more and more right now working or trying to work and offering our services and assistance to our government for developing public policies with IT component and so on. What I believe that we have done already, but is still a work in progress, is to actually develop the 5 helix ecosystem, meaning companies, universities working together, administration, NGOs, and citizen. That is the 5th component of the helix, the citizen. The citizen, which is seen not only as a spectator or somebody that is served by the administration, or is a victim of whatever economic turmoil happens, but also somebody who is a proactive actor and can co-create together with other actors. And actually we've helped create the mechanism in which a citizen, a simple citizen, can actually work with the city hall, can actually bring up an idea, and the idea is listened, and things are moving because of this. We've managed to bring in close to 10 years a lot of, or a big part of the IT industry in Romania from a state in which we hardly trusted each other to a moment in which we build up cooperations and we build up consortiums that go beyond our borders and go into doing bottom-up independent projects of internationalization even. And even some of you already know that we are pushing hard to go into the developing world, like in African countries. We are looking to support the industry to access opportunities in the country and also in abroad, and to support the entire administration in the digitalization process. We're still in Romania in the beginning of this process. Still, we are not too advanced in terms of e-government or e-administration, in terms of the digitalization of processes and data in the government. But we know that this requires strategy, and this requires coordination, this requires good policies. And we know that sometimes the administration alone does not have the specialists or the capacity to do it. So we help. And this is something that we do pro bono. There are a lot of actions that we do, workshops for the government, a lot of them we do without asking for anything else, because while we give this knowledge and we give this help, we understand clearly that this comes back to us. We want a stable, we want a healthy country and a healthy government, which is capable to work for, of course, our well-being. We have lately established a more and more structural approach regarding the international presence of the Romanian IT, and looking for partners and for markets and for regions and for opportunities which we can develop together with partners from those regions, because we believe deeply that during the time we have acquired, on one hand, the technical skills and the technical excellence while working for all the markets in the world, but also we've acquired the ability to think strategically, to think projects, and to cooperate. And in this respect, I believe that we can make a very good partner for other organizations, and that we can create the bridges so that we foster the creation of partnership in between our members, in the members of ClujIT and the members of ClujIT. And one of the actions that we could do together in the future would be to actually establish a way in which our members could know each other, could know more about each other, what they did, what they do, what they are looking for, and what are their capabilities, their products, their services, so that we can find specific aspects in which to cooperate. So that concludes our presentation about Romanian IT and about ClujIT. And of course, we are here to answer to any possible question that you might have, because for sure we couldn't say just everything in this couple of slides. So thank you for now.
Wow. Just my comment. First, thank you very much. Absolutely, Daniel, Cyprian, Carlos, for your great presentation. Actually, I had some questions, but a lot of them were answered during your presentation. So, but just first one, and really thank you very much to share with us your experience and your results. The first question is, did you build a vision? Do you have a story to tell, or do you have somebody who was illuminated and defined this story, or it's part of the workday?
Do you have a guru?
Yeah.
Do you mean?
Well, that's a very good question. I was telling you that our industry has built bottom up. Our ways of cooperation was built bottom up. So what we foster, what we encourage, is for everybody to speak up. In this respect, personally, I do not think that it happened that we had a guru, neither in our community or in our IT at large. It happened that just little by little we've took the courage to speak up and to give ideas to others, and to listen to each other. More important, to listen to each other. In our organization, we don't put too much emphasis on the functions or positions, because the positions are not a privilege, are a duty. So the fact that we are members of the board does only mean that we took the let's say the promise we promised that we will give our time to help the ecosystem and not ask for anything in return for us or for our businesses. And this is something that we encourage to everybody to do. So maybe Cyprian, you might have some other thoughts regarding the guru.
No, actually, I just want to add that to answer Marco, that it doesn't take a single vision. An organization, an alliance, a partnership like the one we're trying to build or the one we're building requires many ingredients. And it requires that every single partner in this joint venture has a vision. And it's important that the vision of every single partner is eventually convergent. So it's extremely important that my company and Daniel's company and every company in the cluster in our organization have their own visions, have their own different approaches to things, but ultimately those visions have a lot of things in common, because that means we have a lot of things that we can use as a foundation for our partnership, for our collaboration. But it also means that we are different enough to expand our vision and to be broader than anything that we could do as a single company. Daniel and I had very little in common until we actually got to interact, and now we actually have a lot of stuff in common, because he introduced me to things that I never knew I'm going to enjoy so much, regarding, you know, traveling to Africa, doing workshops for our government and things like that, right? It's not something that I had in my vision a couple of years ago that I will do, but because I was part of this cluster, and because I was involved in some of the projects, I ended up doing more, serving more, working harder, but also knowing more than any other ways that I could have you know, wanted. So it's important to have different people at the same table with different visions, as long as they learn to collaborate and turn their separate visions into something that is focused on at some point on a given direction. They might change at different times, right? Different companies might generate different projects from time to time, and they can materialize in different ways, and it's fine. But that's important, that the premises of collaboration and identifying that the direction from time to time it needs to be there. And I hope this answered your question, Marco.
Absolutely. And
just a minute. I would like to say thank you to Daniel, Cyprian, and Carlos. These are crazy times. We learn a lot about your experience, but I have another meeting, so I have to excuse myself, but you are in very good company with Marco. So I really appreciate and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Eduardo.
Happy
Bye.
to meet you. Bye.
so sorry, but Eduardo actually has a government meeting that he couldn't move. So I'm so sorry for that, but it's also part of our important meetings. The other question is, one problem that we have in Chile is that there are very strong industries here. For example, mining. For example, food and agriculture. For example, the wine industry. Chilean fruit is known everywhere around the world. How is your industry seen by, I think, for example, in Romania, there are heavy manufacturing industries, right? Are you seen really as an important economic sector right now, or you are just the hackers that like to play with computers? Because we in Chile, the IT industry is not just seen as an industry yet by the other economical sectors. How's your experience about that?
Well, up until recently, everybody, of course, was knowing about the IT industry as a privileged industry here. You know that the IT industry here receives on average higher salaries than others, especially because we can sell to the West and we can sell well. Our relations with the other sectors were mostly opportunistic up until several years ago. But then we realized that in order to grow our country, we have to go in with a strategic approach towards the other players. So what this means is that we know that the entire industry, everything that is producing anything, has to digitalize fast. They have no clue how to do it. So if you ask a manager of a textile company, okay, do you have control over your data, over your processes, over the documents and how it moves? He has no clue. He knows that he has to do something, but he didn't know to whom to go. And if he would put up a tender, a private tender, then 20 companies would flock. He would have no ability to choose because he has no understanding of it. So the approach that we are taking right now, and is actually something that strategically we started last year, is to build a systems of, we call it a digital hub system, in which you unite the players in the industry, in our industry, consultancy and IT, and we say that we start to give support services towards this industry to digitalize. And this we do free workshops, we do assistance, which up to a point can be free, but we also serve them as an alliance. So it's not only a company that goes to implement a single system for a production company, but it is an alliance of open alliance of companies who's going to digitalize the entire company, create architectural blueprint, create a strategy for them. And in this way, by seeing different actors at the same table, they gain trust. So before they didn't have the trust because they didn't have the understanding. Now we come openly without asking them everything, just proposing an approach of us working inclusively with them for a long term. This actually, we managed to succeed very well with the local and the regional administration. We did exactly the same because the same problem happens in the public sector, in the institutions. They knew that they have to digitalize themselves, but they have no idea from where to start. They had no idea how to coordinate. They had no strategy. They had no action plan, no ability to understand how what each costs or to ensure the maintenance of what they do. They had problems with the way they elaborate contracts or the way that they are actually protecting themselves against bad sellers. And by bad sellers, I mean companies who go and capture the interest of the client by, let's say, not allowing them to further on access their data or to extend their systems, you know, things like this. So we went as a cluster to the administration, helped them for free initially to start this strategic approach. This is what we do. Otherwise, everybody's is spending for themselves, and the industry players are having a very hard time to actually establish any relation of trust to the market at large.
Great. You're entrepreneurs. You are company people, company guys. Why are you working with Chile? Why are you working with Africa right now? Because you are good guys, or do you want to change the perception of the American movies about Romania and vampires? Why are you doing this? Do you want to be good people and recognized for that? Just a direct question for you.
Yes, we want to be good people, but you know that being good actually has a return. So we are good to others, they will be good to us. Of course, we have the business drive. And it is in the same logic that we are doing here by building ecosystems, that we are looking to build bridges and actually to create partnerships that enlarge all over the world. We see a tremendous opportunity right now for digitalization at large scale. We also see that this is very hard to be done if you're not actually gathering enough partners in order to have strategic approaches. So that's why we're saying that while we're seeing on one hand Chile and the surrounding American countries in which you have already yourself entry points, as the opportunity in which we can come with our experience and maybe our expertise as well, and build things together in those markets. Maybe as well bring the expertise that you build there and bring it to our market, to Romanian market, to the Southeast European markets in which we have direct access, and also to the other markets in which we go. And you've mentioned Africa. Well, for us, strategically, Africa is one of the huge future opportunities. Maybe not right now. Maybe now it's low value economy, but at the amount and the rhythm of growing of Africa, the fact that you know that it will double its population in 30 years, you know that the workforce capacity of Africa is going so fast that by 2035, they will have more workforce people or able people to work than all the other world combined. And in terms of digitalization, they are at zero. So they have to do everything. And imagine the tens of thousands of SMEs there who have no digital support right now, zero. So it will be huge. But we take each of the ecosystem apart, and we're saying we are looking to build bridges and to find out. Right now, what we are doing, and we are in the initial phase of exploration, with Chile including. For now, we do not know much about your ecosystem, about the opportunities there, and also this is the way, exactly through this presentation, that what we are trying is to share a glimpse about the potential opportunities from here, from this part of the world. Still, it is a long way to go until we actually manage to identify strategic points or specific points in which we just start working together. But however long, I hope that it will be not so long, and I hope that that we'll manage to make good progress in the following months, and hopefully by the next by the end of this year, by Christmas, we can come to visit you.
Great, because well, here in the audience right now, there are very important entrepreneurs and owners of some Chile tech companies. Also, there's some people from government listening to this. Our internationalization program for Chilean companies has been based last 3 years in the Asia Pacific countries and the United States. Actually, for a lot of companies, some people, even in the audience right now, have done a lot of effort, for example, in the States. But it's not easy. But now with you, I think that we will redefine. Actually, we did it. We redefined a new pole of business with your organization and your countries, and it's a very good opportunity. So we can share the contacts, we can make you contact, start to build this ecosystem. The ecosystem is not done by Chile Tech with cluster of Qj. It's done by people, by companies, but with at the low level, not just at the high level. The other, my last question, because we have not received any questions, because people is in shock right now with your good presentation. But is key people the difference, or are the companies? Because that's something that we are discussing also. It's an open question.
So yeah, Chip, please.
No. I wanted to make sure I understand the question. The question is if the difference is made by companies or by people. Right?
Yeah,
is
and by people, when I'm thinking about key people that has the vision, has the encouragement, and has the persistence to just go forward, because your story is not a pink and beautiful story. You had crisis, you came from a dictatorship, you had economical crisis, you have had a lot of problems. But who has led this? Just a bunch of key people with a strong commitment?
Well, it's hard to say. Some people are, everybody's driven by different reasons. Ultimately, everything happens because of the drive. Their motives can be different. Personally, I got involved into something like this because, to make a metaphor, using given the fact that you also have quite a good wine there in Chile, right? I love the Chilean wine. But if you only drink Chilean wine and the same type of wine, worst case scenario, you're going to be alcoholic if you had a lot. but you're not going to be a connoisseur. You're not going to be able to understand the qualities of the wine, right? And from certain perspective, I believe software and designing systems and working in our field, after we've reached a certain level of experience, we have this responsibility for ourselves, not for others necessarily, but for ourselves, to make sure that we don't close ourselves into a bubble and believe that we know everything. The first time I interacted with a public, with the public sector, it was a complete mind shift for me regarding what I believe about our world, about technology. It's a completely different world. When I went into the first time I took a business trip into another country and met companies and people from different cultures and different countries, again, slight change into the mindset, into what I knew about myself. And I believe we owe it to ourselves not to get stuck into the same paradigm over and over again, doing the same project for the same type of customers. I'm sure Daniel and other companies, I mean, other people from our cluster representing many companies have been working traditionally with companies from US and UK. And we believe that that was, like I said a bit earlier, it was more into the area where we were told what to do. They haven't come to pick to use our mindsets. They came to use our brains, right? So hard work and that's it. That was, of course, 20 years ago. Things have changed. But I believe what we can do here, or what we're looking to do, is go to places where we're not going to tell people what to do. We are not even going to expect people to tell us what to do, but rather to find a way to agree and to discover what can be done and what should be done. And this is the opportunity that is, for me at least, is extremely attractive, to be able to explore areas where, you know, just like, I don't know, old explorers can actually go in and find things that nobody have thought about before. And some markets are already crowded, right? You can be innovative in many ways, but once a market is crowded, there is very little that you can do. And going to Africa, for instance, I've seen a lot of opportunities. Of course, because of the whole pandemic situation, we were not able to go back. But Daniel and I and the rest of the companies who were initially with us in, let's say, in our adventure, already started to put together a framework for how we wanted to actually help there. And we came up, you said about whether or not we had a mind or a vision or something. We came up with a strategy that wasn't mine or wasn't Daniel's, it was ours, that we all contributed to. And that vision, that strategy is something that will allow us to actually do what we want, or what we believe is right, in partnerships with those that we are going to help with on the ground, right? So it's not something that can be copied. It's not something that can be learned. It's something that you have to be there and you have to work with those people in order to be able to do what is right. And I think, for me at least, this is the main driver for going beyond what I can do here in Cluj, right? Let's say my job gives me plenty of responsibilities and opportunities and challenges that could keep me busy all day long. But I know there is a bit more than that, and that's why I find this whole opportunity quite exciting.
Perfect. Well, one for time, one last question, and it's important because it's of one of the attendants. It's Christian Ferrer. Christian is one of the obstinate executives of one company of Chile Tech partner. Christian has been involved in all the internationalization process of the Chilean offer. Christian has been in all the voyages and missions that we have developed for other countries. The question of Christian is, you presented figures about the percentage of the GDP and of the export of Romania. But from the internal point of view of the IT companies, do you have some sort of when the standard is different for every company, some sort of ratio between about the revenue between internal sales for Romania versus exports? For example, your company, for example, or Cyprian's company, how much of your revenue is from Romania?
Overall, in the average at the level of the Romanian industry, we are at about 70% of export. So 70% of everything that we produce goes out. Mostly.
Sorry, in your company or in the overall industry?
Overall. So overall, it's 70%. It used to be more. So 10 years ago, it was over 85%. 10 years ago. Since then, the internal demand has grown a bit, and the maturity of the internal company as well as the administration has grown a bit. Still not enough. And our market in general, being a relatively not so big country, in general cannot absorb the amount that we can produce. As well as since we are working a lot with the West, our rates are competitive, let's say, to the Western Europe or US market, but already they might be seen as too expensive or prohibitive for the internal market of some players. So in general, it's 70%, which diminishes little by little, given the amount of growth of the internal economy, and especially the administration, the public sector. In my company, I believe that we are at about the same rate. So we have clients in Romania, which we serve, and also from mostly our clients, our Arxia's clients are from German-speaking countries, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, and so on. And we are 40 to 60% in this rate of revenue.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, we now as Chile Tech, we will share with our partners and all business opportunities that you give to us. It will be shared with our community of companies. And also we will start some pilot projects working together, especially for training new technologies and trying to build local muscle to answer to your requirements. We will announce that on next days. And thank you very much, really. Just thank you very, very much, because in our philosophy or the principles of Chile Tech last 2 years and last months, especially in this crisis, we believe more in you than declare. No more speech, more results. So your experience is based on that. Really, myself as a Chilean, I want to thank you really, because you have shown us that it is possible. It's just that you have to believe in it and to share the vision, not just the vision of one guru, just to share a common vision of everybody that it can be done. So thank you very much. We will keep in touch. I will switch to Spanish right now. And we have a key guy named Carlos Parker. Carlos Parker has been silent during this presentation, but Carlos is part of the key people that we will make that this will happen. So thank you very much. Okay, gracias. I will switch to Spanish. Thank you, Daniel and Cyprian, and we will keep in touch. Muchas gracias a todos nuestros asistentes. Tenemos una tremenda oportunidad de que trabajar nomás, pues es que a través de Carlos ahí vamos a estar trabajando. Ya tenemos una iniciativa en concreto que vamos a ir desarrollando en los próximos días y semanas. Y ya, pues hay que hacerla nomás, pues así que, don Carlos, ahí usted también va a ser nuestro dealer de vino chileno a Daniel también, así que ahí vamos a comenzar.
Sí, ya se me acabaron, me traje un par para engrasar un poco la relación acá, pero ya se me acabaron.
Algo vamos a resolver.
Sí.
Oye, también hay un tema que me comentaste que nos dejó bien preocupados, el tema de que la embajada chilena en Rumania está corriendo peligro. Eso
Sí,
ya es
eso
una
también,
decisión.
eso quería comentar yo, que de hecho la embajada de Chile en Rumania está dentro de las embajadas que el gobierno ha decidido cerrar. Lo cual es muy desafortunado, en mi opinión es tremendamente desafortunado, porque yo creo que en realidad lo que ha sucedido es que no se han detectado las oportunidades que hay acá, especialmente como partner comercial, ¿ya? Yo creo que si la decisión ya está tomada, etcétera, yo espero realmente que por lo menos se considere abrir una oficina comercial o algo acá, porque me parece que las oportunidades que existen acá, sobre todo en la zona donde estoy yo, incluso una poca, pero en realidad en Rumania en general, son muy, muy grandes, ¿ya? Entonces yo espero que digamos que no se corten las relaciones con Rumania, quizás que se pongan los recursos hacia otra dirección, hacia direcciones más comerciales, pero espero sinceramente que sigamos teniendo una presencia importante acá, ¿ya?
Ok,
Sí,
Carlos, levantemos ese tema porque nosotros como Chiletech podemos tomar posición al respecto rápidamente, pero necesitamos más información. De hecho, tú tienes
ok,
buenos contactos como para poder averiguar quién, dónde, con quién.
ya,
Y
pues.
nosotros desde ya porque ya estamos iniciando el trabajo concreto. Esto
Ujú.
nadie nos ha preguntado, sino que simplemente nadie nos ha dicho, lo estamos haciendo, así que démosle. O sea,
Ya.
las peleas hay que darlas a finish, así que partamos
Sí,
por eso.
claro.
O sea, por eso,
Claro,
veamos dos
claro.
temas. Uno, y lo que pasa, yo creo que ahí podemos partir con una campaña a la cual quedan todos invitados los asistentes a este seminario, o sea, para que trabajemos activamente en generar posiciones al respecto, podemos salir con artículos, temas en prensa.
Ujú.
Estamos con algún nivel de llegada interesante a decisores, por lo tanto, es algo que para evaluarlo.
Ok, buenísimo.
Eh, yeah, okay. Thank you very, very much, friends. Have a good week, and thank you for your commitment. Very professional, your presentation. I love your presentation. So thank you very much. And let's keep in touch and let's make things happen, okay?
Thank you very
Absolutely.
much, Marco. Looking forward for many more things to do together.
Absolutely. Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Have a good day. Chao.
Bye bye.
Muchas gracias a todos.
Bye.
Saludos. Listo, gracias. Daniel y Carlos, seguimos en contacto. Gracias. Chao.
Sí.